Okay, today is chapter 2.3, Simplifying Variable Expressions. And go ahead and make sure you have the date in the upper right-hand corner of your paper. Now today is a little definition heavy. You're going to have to know a lot of different terms to do well on this section. A lot is just identifying different pieces of an equation using the proper terminology. So don't get overwhelmed by it. Just go through it step by step. A lot of it we've already been using. And we're going to use it a lot in just regular class talking, so you'll get a good chance to get used to some of the words. So if it doesn't come right away, that's okay. We'll do a lot. The first part we're going to talk about is terms. And terms are the part of an expression that are added together. Let's do an example. If I have 5x plus 4x plus 7 plus 2. Now I want to know, what are the terms of this equation? Well, it's all the numbers, or the parts, that are added together. So this 5x is added to 4x, is added to 7, is added to 2. So these right here are the terms of that expression. Okay, so it's all the different pieces that are added together. Very important that you realize it's the word added, not subtracted. So make sure when you meet those subtraction signs, it's always better to change the entire expression into an addition problem first. So instead of having minus 2, have plus and negative 2. And that'll make sure you get that term part correct. The term would actually be the negative 2. Okay, be careful with that. That'll come up more. Okay, so that's terms. Next one's one of my favorite ones for us to realize we have a word for, because we often try to say it and we can't figure out what that term is. And so I think it's nice to have or to know that mathematical terminology. And that is the coefficient of a term. And you'll hear me use the word coefficient. We're going to learn what that is, because it's an important part of an expression. So let's look back at that previous equation we had. We had 5x plus 4x plus 7 plus 2. And I want the number part of all the terms that include a variable. So which terms here include a variable? There's only 2 terms that actually have a variable, that have that x in this case. And it's the number part of those terms. So what are the number parts of these 2 terms? Well, I have a 5 and a 4. So the coefficients are 5 and 4. Okay? 7 and 2 would not be coefficients because there's not a variable in those terms. Then there are constant terms, or constants. And these are numbers that have no variable. So they're a term with no variable. So in our example of 5x plus 4x plus 7 plus 2, I'm looking for all of the terms that have a number but no variable. Well, it can't be 5x because it has a variable, 4x has a variable, but 7 does not have a variable, and 2 does not have a variable. So 7 and 2 would be the constants for that equation. Next is like terms. And this one, the name is kind of giving us a hint here. Like terms, we're looking for things that are similar in our equation. They're terms that have an identical variable part. So looking up here at our equation again, we've got 5x plus 4x plus 7 plus 2, and I'm looking for pieces that have the same variable part. Well, 5x and 4x both have that x term, so they are like terms. 5x and 4x are like terms. 7 and 2 would not be in that group because they don't have that same identical variable part. Is there another multiple numbers that have the same variable part? Well, this is a little tricky to think about, but 7 and 2 are still like terms because they don't have a variable, so they have a non-variable. Same, they still count as like terms, so 7 and 2 are like terms as well. Okay, we're going to go through and try it all out on one equation and see if we can get through all of the different vocabulary we just learned. So our equation for this is going to be, let's do 5 minus 2x minus 3 plus x. Now, what is our first step when we're looking at parts of this equation? Think back a bit. What would be the most important way to start? Well, looking at it, currently I don't have a pure addition problem. I've got subtraction in there. And I know that for terms, it has to be the parts that are added together. And for all of the other ones, I'm going to need to have that as well. So I want to start by making this into an addition problem. 5 is positive, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. But I've got this minus 2x. Well, I want to change that to an addition problem. So I'm going to do plus, and I'll make it a negative 2x. Notice I wrote that in parentheses, making sure I separate my plus and the negative sign. And I've got a minus 3, so same thing, I'll do plus a negative 3. And then x is positive, so I'm going to leave it, plus x. Very important. If you don't do this step first, you're going to get the rest of the problem wrong. Okay, let's start off with terms. And terms are the parts that are added together in the expression. So what parts do I have? Well, I've got 5, a negative 2x, a negative 3, and an x. So I'm going to write that out. So I'm going to go 5, negative 2x, negative 3, and x. Those are my terms. Next is coefficients. And coefficients have the number part of a term that includes the variables. I'm looking for the terms that have variables. Well, I've got 2 of those, right? I've got negative 2x and x. I'm looking for the number part of them. Well, negative 2x is easy. I'm looking for what number multiplying times x, which is negative 2. So, negative 2. X is a little bit harder, and that's when you have to remember, what is the number we're multiplying by x? How many x's do we have? Even though we don't write it, we know how many x's there are. It's 1x, so the coefficient is 1. Tricky, but important. Next, we have the constant terms, or constants. And those are terms that don't have variables. So I've got 2 terms that don't have variables. I have a 5, and I have a negative 3. And then the last one, we just kind of get a look at what we've done so far. I'm looking at for like terms. So which ones did I group? Well, I've got the coefficients of negative 2 and 1. So those terms negative 2x and x that both have an x. And then I have 2 constants. I've got 5 and negative 3. Make sure you don't list it all out in one row, right? Because negative 2x and x and 5 and negative 3 aren't all like terms. But these 2 are like terms. And these 2 are like terms. So it's like I have 2 sets of like terms. Okay, now we're going to apply what we just learned to solving and simplifying some expressions. So, let's start for this first one. Let's do 5m plus 8 minus 3m minus 7. I want to simplify this expression. We're going to use the same things we were just doing to find out our different terms to try to simplify this expression. Well, the first step with finding the terms was to rewrite this equation as a sum or as all addition. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right over here. I'm going to do 5m plus 8, because that's all fine the way it was. Then I've got minus 3m, so I'm going to make that a plus negative 3m. And got minus 7, so I make that a plus negative 7. Okay? Then, the next step to make this easier to simplify is going to be to try to group the like terms together. And you'll hear that a lot. Teachers will say that a lot. Group your like terms. I'm looking for things that are similar, have the same variable part. So 5m and negative 3m are like terms. So I'm going to go ahead and group those together. I'm going to do 5m plus negative 3m. Do you guys remember what property we needed to use to be allowed to do that? We have something that makes it okay for me to move where that negative 3m. Do you remember what property that is? It's the commutative property. That allows me to switch the order of addition problems. So commutative property, and we still got that plus 8 and plus negative 7. Now this problem is fairly simple. We just need to go ahead and combine those like terms. So 5m plus negative 3m would be 2m. And again, I can only add like terms, so I can't add 8 to 2m because they're not like terms. Then I've got 8 plus negative 7, which is just 1. So I'm going to go ahead and 2m plus 1, and that is my final answer. Let's try a slightly harder one. 2k minus 5 times the quantity k plus 4. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start this off. Easiest way to start, again, is always to make everything into a sum or into a addition problem. So 2k, I've got this minus 5, so I'm going to make it plus a negative 5 times the quantity k plus 4. Now I've got this negative 5 and this k plus 4 next to each other. There's a property I need to use to figure that out. Well, I need to distribute that 5 across, that negative 5 across, right? So that's a distributive property. Negative 5 times k, we'll go ahead and just do the distributive property here. Negative 5 times k is negative 5k. And then negative 5 times 4 is a negative 20. Then make sure are all my like terms grouped. Well, this happens that they already are grouped, right? I have my 2k, my negative 5k right next to each other. And then the negative 20 doesn't have anything to group with it, so it just stays by itself. So 2k plus negative 5k is negative 3k. And I could write down plus negative 20, but I'm going to go ahead and do it all in one step instead of rewriting out plus negative 20 is the same as minus 20. Okay, and that's all we have for today. Practice using those terms when you're talking about expressions. It gets a lot easier if you're used to saying them. We'll be doing more of this in class tomorrow, so look forward to seeing you then. Have a good night.